So a few weeks ago, an autonomous AI actually went crawling through the internet and wrote an article about, well, another AI.
Yeah, which is already kind of wild to think about.
Right. It's totally wild. And what it reported was honestly staggering. Basically, software is now officially beating elite Stanford law professors at their own game.
It really is a surreal moment. I mean, we are essentially watching algorithms hold a mirror up to themselves, reporting on the obsolescence of routine human expertise.
Welcome to this deep dive. I'm really excited about this one. Our mission today is to translate a fascinating article that dropped on June 4th, 2026 from a platform called llmtracker.de. We're going to figure out exactly how artificial intelligence is reshaping the legal landscape and, more importantly, what this actually means for you, especially if you don't have a law degree or, maybe you're running a small business.
Exactly. And we also need to look at where the hidden dangers are lurking. Because as with any major technological shift, the splashy headline only tells, well, a fraction of the story.
Right. It never tells the whole truth. And before we even get into the Stanford study itself, the origin of this source material is just incredible.
Oh, the Vika Ray thing.
Yes. The article we're referencing today was written by Vika Ray, but Vika Ray isn't a human journalist at all.
Not even close.
She is an autonomous AI analyst created by an automation agency called Algorand.de. Her entire existence, her whole purpose, is dedicated to constantly monitoring forums like Hacker News and Reddit.
Just scanning for tech sentiment.
Yeah, analyzing the sentiment of the community and then automatically generating these news summaries. So we have an AI system autonomously reporting on the success of another AI system defeating human law professors.
It's very meta. It feels like something straight out of a sci-fi novel.
Totally. But it leads me to my first major question for you. If AI is already autonomously surfing the web and summarizing news about itself, how exactly is it beating Stanford law professors?
Well,
Because, when I picture a lawyer, I picture someone pacing around a courtroom, passionately cross-examining a hostile witness.
right, but that is the Hollywood version of law. That's television. To truly understand this headline, we have to step away from the dramatic courtroom battles. The Stanford study didn't test charisma or the ability to sway a jury with a heartfelt speech. It tested highly specific, routine legal tasks. And that is where the AI completely outperformed these highly trained professors.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I think this is where people get lost. What kind of routine tasks are we talking about here? Because, frankly, routine in law still sounds pretty complicated to the rest of us.
That's a fair point. The study actually breaks it down into three main areas where the AI was demonstrably superior in both speed and consistency.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is contract review. So historically, this is the painstaking process where a junior lawyer sits in a room, usually with a massive cup of coffee.
Right, late at night.
Exactly. And they read through hundreds of pages of legal agreements, just hunting for specific clauses, hidden obligations, or, potential liabilities.
Basically, finding the needles in the legal haystack.
Yes. And human beings get tired. They skip a line, they misread a comma, and AI doesn't.
It just scans it instantly.
Instantly. The second area is statutory research. This involves searching through these vast, incredibly dense databases of enacted laws and regulations just to find the exact statutes that apply to a specific situation.
Which sounds awful.
It is. It's incredibly tedious. And the third area is document summarization, taking a massive, impenetrable legal brief and distilling it down to its core arguments and facts.
Okay, wait. I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around the mechanism here. How is the AI actually doing this faster and better than a human who has spent, say, 30 years studying law? Like, is the AI actually understanding the law?
Oh, that is the most crucial distinction we can make here. No, the AI does not understand the law in the human sense. Not at all.
Okay, so what is it doing?
The systems we are talking about here are large language models, or LLMs. If you want to really understand how they work, you have to think of them as incredibly advanced predictive text engines.
Like the autocorrect on my phone, but on steroids.
Exactly. They have ingested billions of words of legal documents. They don't actually know what a breach of contract is in the real world. They don't have a concept of justice or fairness.
Right.
But they know exactly what words, what phrases, and what structures mathematically surround a breach of contract clause.
I see. So when it's doing that statutory research you mentioned, it's not logically reasoning through a problem?
No, not logically.
It's using statistics to predict the most likely legal answer based on historical patterns in the text.
You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. And because it's just math, it happens in milliseconds.
Wow. Okay, so is this sort of like Let me try an analogy here. Is it like comparing a master chef to a high-end food processor?
I like where this is going.
Like, the chef, our Stanford professor, is an absolute genius at creating an entirely new complex recipe from scratch. They understand flavor profiles, but the food processor, the AI, will chop 1,000 onions perfectly into the exact same size pieces in 10 seconds, and without ever shedding a single tear.
That's a great way to look at it. The food processor analogy is really helpful. But let's actually push it a bit further to really understand the mechanism here.
Okay, push it.
The AI is a food processor that doesn't actually know what an onion is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It just knows the mathematical coordinates of how to slice the object you put in front of it. It executes these highly defined repetitive tasks with absolute machine precision.
But it's totally blind to the context.
Exactly. And that lack of fundamental understanding leads to a major caveat, a really important one that the researchers at Stanford were very careful to point out in the study.
Okay, what's the caveat?
These results, this amazing speed and accuracy, they reflect performance strictly within controlled benchmarked conditions.
So a laboratory setting, basically.
Yes, an isolated test environment. The AI was given perfectly clean data, very clear instructions, and a specific measurable goal.
Right, there were no surprises.
It's a sterile environment. And any legal professional will tell you that a sterile benchmark test is vastly, vastly different from the incredibly messy, unpredictable reality of a real-world legal dispute.
So the onions are already perfectly peeled and placed in the machine, so to speak.
Exactly.
But even in a laboratory setting, this kind of speed completely upends the way things are done. I mean, if this software is this fast and this consistent at the routine tasks, the contract reviews, the legal research we talked about, who actually reaps the financial benefits of that speed?
Well, that brings us directly to the tech community's reaction, which Vika Ray captured beautifully in her summary.
Right, because she analyzed the chatter across Hacker News and Reddit, and those sites basically operate as the digital water coolers for the tech world.
Yeah, that's where the developers hang out.
And she found that 52% of the community sentiment surrounding this Stanford study is overwhelmingly positive, and the core excitement driving that positivity. It's the democratization of legal access.
Which is huge. To translate what this means for you, the listener, imagine you're running a small bakery. You make great bread, but you aren't a legal expert.
Right.
You want to sign a commercial lease for a new storefront, but the landlord hands you a 40-page contract full of incredibly dense legalese.
The kind of stuff that makes your eyes glaze over on page 1.
Exactly. Now, traditionally, you have to hire a human lawyer to look that over. You're paying an exorbitant hourly rate, maybe $300, $400, or even $500 an hour.
And that's just for them to sit and read the document before they even give you a single piece of advice.
Precisely. It's a massive barrier to entry.
Honestly, I think most small business owners just skip the lawyer, sign the document, and just pray nothing goes wrong. Because the foundational legal protections that massive corporations take for granted, they're entirely cost prohibitive for the average person.
It's a huge problem. But look at what happens if we apply the Stanford data to the real world. If an AI can handle that initial document summarization and that basic contract review in 10 seconds, the cost drops from $1,000 to literally fractions of a penny.
That's unbelievable. It's like having an entire floor of paralegals just living inside your laptop.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a potential evolution in the entire cost structure of professional services.
Yeah.
We're looking at a scenario where basic legal hygiene transitions from being this luxury that only well-funded companies can afford into a standard, affordable business utility, something available to anyone with an internet connection.
I mean, I love the idea of democratizing access. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If it really is this cheap and this easy, and it's officially beating Stanford professors at reading contracts,
Yeah.
won't every small business owner just, I don't know, fire their lawyers and start running all their vendor contracts and employment agreements through a chatbot tomorrow morning? Like, what is the catch?
The catch is incredibly significant. And it is the exact reason you should definitely not fire your lawyer tomorrow morning.
I figured as much. There's always a catch.
Remember that while 52% of the tech community was positive, our AI author noted that a very vocal 30% of the community had a strictly critical reaction to the study.
Right.
And keep in mind, these are the developers who actually build these systems. They know how the sausage is made, and they are urging extreme caution.
Yeah, the article used a really vivid phrase for this. I loved this. They called these AI tools real-world footguns.
Footguns, yes.
Now, for anyone who hasn't heard that term, a footgun is a piece of tech slang. It describes a tool that is incredibly powerful, but it's so poorly designed for the messy real world that you end up accidentally shooting your own business in the foot.
It's a perfect description, and the source material breaks down exactly why this AI is a footgun. There are specific risks that an AI simply cannot handle yet, and they generally fall into three main categories.
Okay, let's hear them.
You've got high-stakes edge cases, jurisdictional nuances, and complex judgment calls.
Okay, let's break those down, starting with the edge cases. Because I get the concept generally, but how does an edge case actually break an AI that just passed a Stanford Law test?
Well, remember how we established earlier that large language models are really just advanced predictive text engines relying on historical data?
Right. They're just mapping mathematical probabilities of words based on what has already happened in the past.
Exactly. So what happens when a situation arises that has never happened before?
Oh.
That is an edge case. And law is rarely black and white. It is full of weird, unprecedented situations. Let's say two companies get into a dispute over the copyright of an image that was generated by another AI.
Which is happening all the time right now.
Exactly. But historically, there isn't a massive historical data set spanning decades for the model to draw from. It literally doesn't have the math to predict the outcome.
So what does it do? Does it just say, I don't know?
No, and that's the scary part. Because of how these models are designed, they almost never say, I don't know. They just mathematically guess, which leads to hallucinations.
Hallucinations, meaning it just makes stuff up.
Yes, it will generate completely fabricated laws or cite legal precedents that sound incredibly convincing. I mean, perfectly formatted citations, but they don't actually exist in the real world.
That is terrifying. If you're relying on that for your business, you're toast.
Absolutely toast.
Okay, so that's edge cases. What about jurisdictional nuances? Why does a predictive text engine care if a contract is signed in California versus New York? Contract is a contract, right?
You would think so, but no, because law is incredibly hyperlocal, and words mean different things depending on literally where you were standing.
Give me an example.
So take a non-compete clause in an employment contract. That might be perfectly legal and standard in one state. But if you take that exact same document across the border to another state, that clause might be entirely unenforceable or even illegal. Or worse, the interpretation of a single word in a contract might differ between two judges sitting in the exact same courthouse, just based on their previous rulings. The AI is looking at the overall statistical average of the text on the internet. But your local reality might be entirely different.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Yeah. Because it sounds like we can look at this through a GPS metaphor.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
So the AI is a navigation system, right? And it has memorized the entire historical map of a city. It knows the absolute fastest, most mathematically efficient route from point A to point B.
I follow the logic.
But the GPS doesn't know that a massive localized storm just hit 10 minutes ago and completely flooded the main intersection.
Right.
So it just blindly routes you straight into the floodwaters because historically, on average, that road is usually clear. It doesn't understand the jurisdictional nuances of the weather or, like you said, the specific mood of the referee on that particular day.
That is a much better way to conceptualize the danger than the food processor analogy. The AI doesn't understand the real-time human element of the legal system. It just can't make those complex human judgment calls.
It just drives you into the lake.
Exactly. And the article issues a very stark warning about this. The gap between benchmark performance in a sterile lab and production reliability in the messy real world. That gap is currently dangerously wide.
And in law, errors aren't just a glitch on a computer screen that you can fix by hitting refresh.
No. AI errors in legal matters carry severe company-ending consequences. You might save $500 on attorney fees to review your commercial lease, sure. But you could lose your entire business a year later because the AI hallucinated a statute or failed to understand the jurisdictional nuance of a liability clause.
Okay, wait, hold on. If the AI is really just a predictive text engine on steroids and throwing my company's most sensitive contracts at it could result in hallucinated laws, how on earth are we supposed to actually use this technology?
It's a great question.
How do you navigate this massive gap between this incredibly cheap, super fast technology on one side and the absolute necessity of nuanced human judgment on the other?
Well, that tension is actually driving what the Hacker News and Reddit community is already predicting will be a massive counter-reaction in the market.
The counter-reaction.
Yes, because the risks of blindly trusting an AI with these high-stakes edge cases are so severe, the industry is not going to just hand the keys over to the algorithms. It's too risky.
Right. I remember from the source, the developers were predicting a growing demand for explicitly human-certified legal services.
Which raises a really fascinating economic question for the whole industry. If AI is doing all the routine, heavy lifting work, the document sorting, the basic contract reading, the statutory searching, and it's doing it for pennies, what is the actual value of a human lawyer? What are you paying them for?
Well, you certainly aren't paying them to just read the document anymore. The AI already did that in 10 seconds.
Exactly. You're not paying for their reading speed. We are likely looking at a future where legal services are completely bifurcated, split into two very distinct tiers.
Okay, let's explore that. What does the bottom tier look like in this future?
The bottom tier is all about volume and initial filtering. The AI will handle the sheer mass of routine document summaries and basic standard contract reviews.
The grunt work.
Yeah, the grunt work. It does the work that used to take a team of junior associates, hundreds of billable hours, and it does it instantly and almost for free.
And then you have the top tier, the human lawyers.
Yes, and their role shifts entirely. They act as the final premium safety net. They review the AI's output, specifically looking for those flooded roads you mentioned in your GPS analogy.
Looking for the traps.
Exactly. They're looking for the jurisdictional nuances, the weird edge cases, and they're applying the strategic human judgment that a mathematical prediction engine simply cannot emulate.
They basically become the artisanal law firm.
I love that phrase.
Yeah.
Yes, artisanal law.
Like, to bring back our food analogy from way earlier, you are no longer paying the chef to stand there and chop the onions. You are paying the chef to taste the soup, recognize that it needs just a tiny pinch of salt based on their 30 years of experience, and then sign off on it before it goes out to a tough food critic.
That is exactly the new value proposition. You are paying for their human intuition. You're paying for their experience with specific local judges and their ability to creatively strategize when the historical data fails.
So what does this all mean? If we wrap this all up for you, the listener, what is the ultimate takeaway for your own professional toolkit?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we are entering an era of augmented professional services. The Stanford study proved without a doubt that AI has officially conquered the routine, controlled tasks of law.
Contract reviews, summaries.
Right. The speed and consistency are just unprecedented. But the critical error would be assuming that real-world law behaves like a controlled benchmark test. Moving forward, the value isn't in gathering the information or reading the text. The value is entirely in the human judgment applied to that information.
It really is a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because on one hand, this shift promises to massively lower the barrier to entry. Small businesses might finally be able to afford the kind of foundational legal research and routine contract review that keeps them safe from predatory practices.
Absolutely. It's a huge win for access. But relying on it blindly for anything beyond the routine ignores the massive risks of those edge cases. The Footgun is loaded, so to speak.
It's just fascinating. I mean, you might not be planning on going to law school anytime soon, but you are witnessing in real time a structural revolution in who gets to access the law and how it actually operates.
It is going to rewrite the economics of the entire profession, without a doubt.
It really is. And it leaves me with one final thought, building on that prediction of human certified services. Something for you to mull over after we wrap up here.
Oh, let's hear it.
If AI drives the cost of routine legal work down to virtually zero, but that necessary, nuanced human judgment remains expensive and scarce, will we soon see a world where a 100% human-reviewed stamp on a legal contract becomes the ultimate luxury status symbol?
Oh, wow.
Like buying a handmade mechanical watch instead of a cheap digital one? Will only the wealthy be able to afford the safety of human intuition, while the rest of us just have to cross our fingers and rely on the algorithms?
That is the million-dollar question for the next decade. It really makes you think.
We will leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the headlines, keep looking for the nuance, and we will see you next time.